Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of the Man Cave Podcast, brought to you by our good friends from Hy-Vee and Toys and Ford. And don't forget to check out the Swag Cave, brought to you by Resonance Branding Company. That link is in the podcast description. On this episode, in the second half, we're going to talk some sports cards with Brian from the Card Collecting Club. We recorded our conversation from a pretty darn sweet card store here in Eau Claire, Ultimate Authentics. So that's coming up in the second half here. Brian's going to talk about a cool event he's got coming up for the kiddos in September, too. But we're going to lead off the podcast. I want to talk a little Packers with Rashan Gary and a little Brewers. So let's start off with the Brewers. Picking up a 1-0 victory last night. It was a late start thanks to the rain. And but the Brewers able to get it done. 1-0 victory. Finally, Bryce Serang in the 8th inning getting that RBI single, and the Brewers holding it down after that, picking up the win, securing a season series win against the Cubbies. They'll try to win another series, though, with their final game this afternoon, but Brewers 7-5 overall against the Cubs this year. So, but we'd like to win another series, right? Especially down in Wrigley. Kind of weird, though, to say that we're not going to be going up against the Cubbies for the rest of the year. I know it's the end of July here, but you look at the schedule, yeah. In fact, we know we got Cincinnati and St. Louis a couple times, and then Pittsburgh at the end of September. Otherwise, that's it for division teams already. Man, all right. How about that? Kind of nuts. Again, kind of some teaching moments from Pat Murphy, it sounds like, yesterday. I know I mentioned this, beforehand here, but Adam McCulvey, who covers the Brewers, said this was a tweet. It's not every single night the manager comes right into the middle of the clubhouse after a win and delivers stern instruction to a group of young hitters, but tonight was one of those nights for Pat Murphy. Quote, "This would really have hurt to lose," he said. Always teaching, and I think this kind of goes back to maybe a little bit of his old school mindset of him being a college manager for the longest time, big part of his career and such. Always teaching, always. We talk about that high standard that it seems like Pat Murphy has installed with his team. That doesn't matter about the inexperience for some of these players, doesn't matter about how young they are. He has this high standard. We talked about it last week when apparently, it was that leadership council meeting and with certain players and Pat Murphy and he talked about it, saying there was some stuff that I saw that I didn't like, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here. He said maybe I shouldn't be, too stern about it, but that's where I'm at right now, and he kind of wanted to call it out. And again here last night, even with the win, with the 1-0 win, and in front of media members, going out there, still teaching, always teaching, trying to get better. And maybe there's a little bit of a sense of urgency because the team's in first place and trying to remain in first place and not allowing the team to get complacent, not wanting the team to get into a tough stretch here. Post All-Star break, maybe trying to get the team so that they, get a little bit more fired up, get back into that groove of things. Trying to knock off some of the rust a little bit. But shouldn't be a big surprise to see that, knowing what we've gotten to know from Pat Murphy mostly this year, to find out he was going out there in the clubhouse in front of the media and still with a stern instruction to those young hitters out there. So it was a rough night for the Brewers offense again, but got to give credit to that pitching staff for keeping the crew in the game. Colin Ray, Hudson, Peguero, Koenig, McGill, all combining for a 7-hit shutout in a 1-0 win. Colin Ray, 8 strikeouts for him last night. His first start post All-Star break. He continues. Right now he's continuing his impressive season thus far for the Brewers. Brewers again will try to win this series. 1:20 first pitch for the Crew. Off day tomorrow before the Brewers head back to Milwaukee, where they will be taking on the Marlins for a weekend series, 3-game weekend series against the Marlins. Now we are officially, though, under a week away from the trading deadline. And each day that goes by, there's, going to be maybe some anxiety, maybe more so from the fans and such. Maybe from the teams too, like, hey, we got to try to get some deals done. And, those teams that may be sellers, maybe trying to hold on to the last minute here, trying to get a little bit more in return. Is the price a little bit high there and such? Couple of thoughts on rumors, reports, rumblings, opinions on what the Brewers should do or what they're going to do at the trade deadline. First one up, MLB.com. 9 clubs that should be all in at the trade deadline. Brewers are on this list. They come in at number 7. And as they said, what we think should happen and what actually happens are often two very different things. The 08 CC Sabathia swap notwithstanding, the Brewers aren't ones to make an over-the-top acquisition and are already selling the pending returns of D.L. Hall and Devin Williams as their biggest impact moves of the second half. Interesting that they threw in D.L. Hall into that. Who they could land, they say. Any of the starting pitchers mentioned so far in the previous article make you feel better about the October outlook for a club that is reliant on Freddie Peralta, Colin Ray, and Tobias Myers, and recently acquired Aaron Savali. Who they would have to give up. An impact trade might require the Brewers to deal from their depth of young Major League outfielders. That includes Sal Frelick, Garrett Mitchell, and Blake Perkins, something the front office is loath to do. And there was this other report that was out there that the Brewers, that some executives are saying that this could be a trade deadline. Again, this was a report from MLB.com. This could be a trade deadline where we're seeing some teams that could be buyers and sellers, towing that line of buying for this year but also selling for 2025 and some controllable years after this year. And the Brewers were mentioned as a team like that. The Guardians, Rays, seems like kind of a lot of those typical teams there. But how would you feel if you are a Brewers fan and you hear like your team that we assume is like going to be buyers at the deadline, maybe adding some more pitching. You're in first place by 5 games. What would kind of go through your mind about being a buyer and a seller? Like, first of all, the first player I thought in my mind was, okay, is that Willy Adames? But then I instantly go back, I'm like, I feel like that was almost their mindset when they traded Josh Hader, and look how that turned out. Now, I know it doesn't mean it would work out the same exact way, but when you think about it, I think that's what the Brewers had in mind. They were in first place at that time, selling but also buying. They probably looked at, okay, Devin Williams moves up to the closer role. We're protected there. And then we're also trying to stay competitive for the controllable years, for future years and such. It didn't work out. And if they're trying to, or if they're thinking about doing a similar approach, who would that player be? And I keep going back to Willie because, you got Ortiz there, but then if it's Ortiz moves over to short, who's your third base? Does that mean you call up Tyler Black and you make him your permanent one? Because I don't think it can be Andrew Monasterio. Sal Frelick over there. But how much does how much does Christian Yelich now potentially go on the injury list change some of that stuff? Because if it is Willy Adames as one of those guys, you lose a power bat. I mean, you lose one of your top power bats within this lineup. And with Yelich going to be potentially missing some time, that could be a big hit to the offense. So I don't know how I'd feel about that, to be honest with you. And to be honest with you, like, it makes me a little bit nervous. It makes me a little bit nervous to hear the potential of being a buyer and seller towing that line. Because what would the reaction be like from a fan base? What would the reaction be like within the clubhouse? Because we hear all this stuff about how Willy Adames, the leadership that he brings off, how he's kind of mentoring some of the younger guys. Like, I feel like that could have a huge effect within the clubhouse. And is that worth it? I don't know if it's worth it. I really don't. And maybe there's other guys that they're talking about. Maybe it's Trevor McGill, if Devin Williams comes back. But, that's probably not, obviously that isn't as big of a moving piece as a Willy Adames would be. But, is it one of those younger outfielders? You still have control over them, though, too. So, is it Reese? Is it a Reese Hoskins that, you trade and then you have Bowers as your first baseman, then you still bring up Tyler Black to go over there? I mean, trying to think of some guys that is like a short-term roster player for the Brewers right now that they would move on from at the deadline to get some more controllable stuff in the future. But the thing is, too, like, if you're going to make that move, if you're going to be a seller, I have to imagine, like, you're going to be trading to a contender that you may have to face in the postseason. So, if there's a team that needs a first baseman or a DH in the National League, and they offer you the best deal, if you're the Brewers, do you take it? Even though you may have to go up against that? Interesting. Something to maybe kind of keep an eye on for the next few days here. But if I'm being honest, I'm a little bit nervous on that. Just because I'm playing all the different scenarios within my mind. I don't know if I can get on board with that. Because I maybe I'm thinking worst case scenario, and that's kind of clouding my judgment here a little bit, but interesting. And again, it could be nothing. Could just be a rumor, speculation, all that stuff out there. So, switching over quickly to a little green and gold chat here. Rashan Gary had himself a day in the monsoon of practice yesterday. Packers practicing in the rain and such, but in that final 11-on-11 session, Rashan Gary showing off his skills. Three sacks in 4 plays. And again, it was just shorts and all that, so we don't want to overreact to that. But Rashan Gary talked a little bit with the media after practice, and he was asked about the transition from a 3-4 to a 4-3, and what's the biggest difference for him personally in this system, in Jeff Hafley's system. And he echoed really what Preston Smith said a few weeks ago, quote, hand in the dirt and not dropping back into coverage. I feel more explosive coming out of a 3-point stance. Sometimes when you're in a 2-point stance, you can create more false steps. And with the hand in the dirt, the false steps are taken away. We've talked a lot leading up to training camp, off-season, certain players that could really benefit within this defense. We've talked about Quay Walker, maybe transitioning to the weak side, a little bit more room for him to roam and to make some plays. We've talked about Jair Alexander, playing within this new mindset of a press and aggressive coverage. We've talked about, the impact that Xavier McKinney would have in the back end as a safety. We've talked about Kenny Clark, all of his career, he's played in a 3-4. Now he's moving into a 4-3. How much will he benefit from this? Same with Devontae Wyatt. Is this a guy that now is going to break out in year 3? It's a pivotal year, in my opinion, for a guy like Devontae Wyatt. And now you kind of look at a guy like a Rashan Gary, who has that big contract last year, signed that 4-year, $96 million extension. He hasn't had a double-digit sack season. And I think, when we've talked about this defense, we've talked about, maybe a guy like Lucas Van Ness, who's entering his second year as a guy that's maybe better suited for the hand in the dirt and playing a prototypical 4-3 defensive end. But Rashan Gary, could he be a breakout player this year? What's the expectation? What's the where's your bottom line maybe for a guy like Rashan Gary? Like, is it fair to say that you should expect, or we should expect, double-digit sacks from him this year to be that edge rusher that is our number one guy that opposing offenses, fear out there? I'm thinking about last year and some of the sack leaders. T.J. Watt's up there. You had Hendrickson from Cincinnati. Those guys out there. But that guy, that guy that it's 3rd and 7, and you gotta have a stop. You need a play. You need a play to happen. And you need that sack. Is it going to be Rashan Gary this year? Like a Myles Garrett. Guys that just seem to come in the clutch and getting that big sack. Would it be... Part of me was like, okay, can Rashan Gary, when his first thing all, switched over to a 4-3, I was like, okay, Rashan Gary, he's got the size. He's not a smaller outside linebacker. It's not like he's 250 or something like that. He's 270, 275. So he's got a little bit more muscle on him. He's got a little bit more weight on him. But now, kind of thinking about, okay, if this is going to help him in terms of eliminating those false steps, as he says, and maybe not thinking a little bit too much, because one of the weaknesses from Rashan Gary from early part of his career has been maybe over pursuing a little bit, maybe taking a wrong angle, jumping out of that 2-point stance, maybe over pursuing a little bit allows that opposing quarterback to sidestep, to step up, or really biting on a play action, and you got that free run with a running back on the side, on the edge there. Now you got Rashan Gary, who's straight up focusing on getting after a quarterback. That, to me, could be pretty darn dangerous. The thing is, if you're going to play that aggressive pass coverage, you're going to play some man-to-man, you better make sure your defensive line gets home. And you better make sure your defensive line can provide some consistent pressure, play in, play out. Because if you're not able to provide that pressure, if you're not able to get after that quarterback, you're not able to make that quarterback uncomfortable, it could be a long day for your corners and your safeties back there to try to hold up on coverage. It could be a really long day. So I think it's fair to say, yes, we should have some high expectations. We should ask a lot from a guy like Rashan Gary this year. To be that guy. To be the number one pass rusher, to vault himself into that next tier of pass rushers and edge rushers in the NFL. To be in that same category as a Micah Parsons, a Danielle Hunter, a Trey Hendrickson, Max Crosby, TJ Watt, to be that next guy, to take that next step. Nick Bosa. Because he's not there. He's got a nice contract, but he's not in that category. He's not at that level. And I think for this defense to take that step that we all want them to take, to be a unit that opposing teams fear, to be a unit that can get off on third down and create those turnovers, to be a dominant unit, to be a top 5, top 10 unit, it's got to start up front. If you want to play that aggressive pass coverage, it starts up front. And I think Rashan Gary has to be that guy. He has got to be that guy. I think it's fair to expect more from him. I think it's fair to have high expectations from him. I know we pay a lot of attention to sack numbers, and you got to look at pressure rates and pressure numbers and all that. I just want to see consistent pressure on the opposing quarterbacks, knocking them down, getting them, seeing ghosts back there. Something that we haven't seen too consistently over the last couple of years. But doesn't it kind of frustrate you too when, if you're a Packers fan and you hear another guy, an edge rusher, say, I get to go after the quarterback more instead of dropping back in coverage? Doesn't that kind of frustrate you? Like, what took so long? You know what I mean? What took so long? So I think it's fair. Again, I think it's fair to expect a lot from Rashan Gary this year. All right, let's take a quick break, and we're going to get to our conversation with Brian from the Card Collecting Club, where we recorded a segment from Ultimate Authentics in Eau Claire. We'll get to that after these quick words. We're getting set for another busy travel season, vacations, taking our kids to all their games and activities, and you need a proper vehicle to get you to where you're going, and safely. That's where Toys & Ford can help you. Toys & Ford will go the extra mile to provide you with compelling options for new and used car shopping. They will gladly work with you on financing no matter what your budget may be. They're committed to giving drivers across the Chippewa Valley the best in customer service. Check them out for yourself. Visit Toys & Ford in Chippewa Falls today and check out their website, toysandford.net. Summer is in full swing. Are you stocked up and prepared? With the kids staying home this summer, family vacations planned, and ball games to go to, your pantries and cupboards are probably looking a bit bare these days. Save money and stock up this summer by doing your shopping at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. Not only will you be able to get the best deals on the best items in the area, you can do some extra savings with Hy-Vee's fuel perks. Save money on groceries and gas. That's a win-win situation. So what are you waiting for? Get the shopping at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire today. Joining me right now is my good buddy, Mr. Brian from the Card Collecting Club. How you doing, man? Good to see you.
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be here. Ultimate Authentics is a great venue.
Yeah, this is an awesome place. I mean, whether you're looking for cards or memorabilia or whatever, really. I mean, I get gawking every time I'm in here.
It's like going back in a time machine when you walk in here. It's amazing.
I don't know if they remember, but it was, maybe about a year ago, I was in here with Hudson, and they had a Madden 95 Game Boy game.
Oh.
I bought it.
Oh, heck yeah.
Because it was my first Madden game ever as a kid.
Yep.
And I still play it. So.
Yeah, that's great.
Last time we got to be able to catch up with you, we were kind of talking about it. It might have been last year, getting ready for your events in September. I mean, we've talked to you before, off and on and such, but podcasting wise, I mean, how is everything going with the Card Collecting Club right now since we last talked? I mean, you're getting ready for your second annual event here in September, but summer wise, I know you've been busy with a lot of little league tournaments and games and such. So what's the status? How's the club been going on right now?
Well, Dan, I tell you what, it's been absolutely amazing. Since becoming a nonprofit in April of 2023, the club has just taken off. School-wise, it's been phenomenal. We've been getting cards to 25 area schools and over 40 classrooms during the school year. South's running a club, DeLong's running a club, North Star's got one going. And then this summer has just been unbelievable. We started off doing some things for the Eau Claire Americans, then the Eau Claire Nationals, then we went to the Miracle League, then we went to Lois Creek, then we did some stuff with the Babe Ruth group, and then we did Seymour, and I hate to say it, but I'm running low on cards.
Yeah.
It's a great thing, though. Just at this last tournament out in Seymour, there was 82 teams between 3 different diamonds in the area, and the event I was there from 7 to 2, and I went through over 500 packs of cards.
Wow.
I ran out.
Wow.
It was
500 packs?
Yeah, it was such a great thing, though. These kids were just so excited, and they stopped by the table like, these are free? I'm like, yeah. And the smiles on their faces, excitement, and then taking them back, and all of a sudden I see a group of like 8 of them opening their packs and trading and talking about it. That's what it's all about.
So because you take donations
Yep.
For cards. Is there a certain amount of like years? Are you looking for more current? Is it like if anybody's listening, like, hey, I got a bunch of cards I'd like to donate. Is there certain like years or something you look at?
That is a great question. Typically, I'm looking for cards within the last couple of years. I know people like my age, we had a ton of cards from the 80s, early 90s, but kids today don't know the players. If they open a pack, they're going to be like, whatever. So I'm more looking for stuff from 2021 on. Baseball, basketball, football, hockey, soccer, you name it. Those are the cards that the kids are looking for. And yeah, those are the basic years that I think would be great to donate.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, because even my little guy Hudson, he knows Robin Young, but the other guys, when he's going through, he's like, it doesn't phase him or dawn on him, which we were probably like that too when we were kids, right?
Oh, for sure.
Getting the cards from guys like, I don't know who the hell that guy is, sort of thing. So you got your event coming up on September 8th. So explain this a little bit. Is it like anybody can go and maybe set up a booth, or is it like just for you and setting up some events, because you had some cool games lined up last year, I remember?
Basically last year is the first year we did it and didn't really know what to expect. Huge success though. There's over 75 kids that attended with not a lot of publicity about it, but basically when the kids walk in, they're going to be getting a goodie bag. The goodie bag is going to be loaded with baseball, basketball, football cards, and we got some donations from local businesses. But then the best part is once they walk through those doors and get that goodie bag, we got them on a little scavenger hunt. And so we're going to have different things set up throughout the venue where kids are going to be able to do a lot of free activities. For example, we've got a putting green where a kid's going to be able to putt. If they get a hole-in-one, they get a jersey card, putting for patches.
Nice.
Then we got a little bowling thing with some plastic bowling balls and bowling pins. And if they get a strike, we are going to call it knockdown for numbered. They get a numbered card. Then we have a little cornhole set up, and if they can get it in the hole, they get an autographed card. So we're going to call that aiming for autos. So we have three fun events. We also, this year, going to add a roulette wheel. So if they spin it and they land on red, black, or green, they're going to get a card based on the color. And then we also have some amazing businesses that are going to be there. For number one, Ultimate Authentics. They help secure the venue, and they've been just amazing for kids this year with their report card program and all the things they do for kids. Cooley Cards and Gaming donated a bunch of blaster boxes that I'm going to give away. Then we have people that are breakers in the area, like MPB Breaks, Matt Barnett. We have Spartan Sports Card Memorabilia with Jack LeMay. We have an amazing businessman, Jed Hart, who owns quite a few businesses in the area. He's going to be set up. Jeremiah Phillips, who's been great for the club, is going to be doing some custom 3D prints and displays that.
Yeah, I saw that on Facebook. That are pretty amazing. Is sweet.
Yep, and then we're going to have some other things. We're also going to have some things to hopefully raise some money for the club. We're going to have a silent auction. But one of the things we're going to add this year is called a flash line. This is really cool, but we're going to have like a Jaden Reed rare checkerboard card and 3 Jaden Reed autos, and you can put a bit of $1 and have a chance to win it.
Really?
So we're going to have a bunch of cards set up, and kids or adults can come in and bid on them, and then we're going to randomize a number. So let's say you put $1 and you were number 126, and we do a randomizer and that number's pulled, you could win all those cards for $1. So
no kidding.
Yeah, so it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have our shake board there. The kids love the shake board.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just going to be a blast.
And that's, again, it's at our VFW Post 305, which, if anybody listens to Sports Talk, they're big partners with us over there, too. So kind of cool how it's all one big circle, it seems like.
Yeah,
with
all
everybody
connected,
involved over there. And it's a great venue. I know they've done some remodeling and such. Shout out to Mrs. Faunus over there for that. But, yeah, definitely looking forward to that on September 8th coming up here. So, when we look at this building here, I remember when they kind of first opened and coming through here and seeing now how everything is in here. What's kind of been your take from the last year and how big this card industry has gotten? Whether it's like now Hudson's even watching breaks. He'll watch guys on YouTube opening packs and all that sort of stuff. I can't even when we first started getting back into this, COVID year and all that, I still don't know if I would have expected it to be this big right now.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing because I was big into cards as a kid, and obviously life changes when you go to school and you need money, you sell your collection off, and I really didn't get back into cards till around COVID too, and it's just been amazing to see the increase in interest for sports card collecting, you know, especially with the kids.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things with sports card collecting that we have to remember is it's not a cheap hobby.
Right.
But there are ways to do it less expensively. And I think that's the thing that I'm trying to help the kids with is, you know, what are good deals? Where can you find inexpensive cards? You know, what shops are really going to help you out in town? And I think, you know, the biggest thing is, you know, I'm a teacher. I like to educate. And so my big thing is learning myself and then, you know, helping kids learn about the hobby and collecting for the right reasons. You know, not trying to buy a box to get a 101, but who do you want to collect or what team do you want to collect? I think that's going to leave their passion be longer than just trying to hit a big card. You know, they're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, and that I think that's where part of my personal struggle is from too, because I know I've talked to you. I'm like, dude, I need an idea of who to collect or what to collect and all that, and like that's where I honestly. That's not why I got into it when I was a kid, and that's not really why that interest has kind of come back, is to try to find that one of one. Like, I just want to maybe have the biggest collection of Aaron Jones cards or something like that. And Hudson's kind of the same way, but I think now he's kind of like, oh, you know, this is a one of one sort of thing, and he's kind of getting into that though too. And I don't remember that being a big deal when I was a kid. Do you remember that?
It didn't exist.
Yeah, you know, like I remember. And this is kind of the weird thing. Like, I remember when I was younger, too, like, if you got a card that had, like, a patch on it or something, that was a huge deal. Now I feel like that's kind of, like, maybe not as big of a deal when we were younger. Is that fair to say?
And you're younger than I am, so when I go back to my age, it was Topps, Fleer, Donruss, and you had one card of each player. You know, now you've got parallels, you've got autographed, you've got jerseys, you've got all these things that make it harder to collect your favorite player. Like, if, like you said, you want to collect all the Aaron Jones cards, I guarantee there's probably over 3,000 of them.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like back, if I want to collect Topps Robin Young, there's one card of each of him for his career.
Yeah.
So it's definitely changed a lot.
And I remember, too, as a kid, like, I mean, we didn't have there were card shops, too, but, and you could get individual cards, but nothing like what it is kind of today. So I remember when I was a kid, it was like always buying a pack and you were just hoping to get that player. And I remember, like, Shaq and Penny were my guys. I got like 35 Shaqs and I was like, oh, I'm in heaven. I got 30, you know, it was like 4 pages, whatever the math, you know, evens out to that. And I thought I was off to a good start. Now you hear guys who've got like how many of, you know, a certain player, where it's easier, obviously, online too with eBay if you're looking for those guys and trying to collect it too. But I do miss the feeling too of opening a pack. Whereas on one hand, it's easier to, focus on trying to find the players you want. But there's something unique, I think, about opening a pack, and that's something I'm still trying to get over that hump. And there was, I don't know the guy's name, but there was a video series, I think he does it on California. There's 5 cards he's on a hunt for, but he'll buy the packs. And like one of them's Barry Sanders rookie. Okay. So he'll go to these different card shops and just buy a pack or a couple packs and open up and try to find them that way. And I'm like, that's kind of cool because it's a hunt.
Yeah.
You know, that's that sort of way.
There, you know, when you talk about opening packs, so there's nothing better than doing that, though. I think even if you want to collect a certain player, I think it's fun just to open packs, too. You know, and going to the local card shops around here, you know, they've got some pretty good deals on current cards, but also, you know, sometimes they'll have vintage packs, you know, for 89 or 90 tops or whatever for $1.
Yeah.
You know, and just for the sake of ripping, just to open it and say, hey, can I get a Canseco or can I get a McGuire or whatever. So I think the pack ripping is always going to be a part of collecting. And I think it's just something that you never know what's inside. And I think that's the thrill of opening packs.
Right. So. I guess maybe for me too, it's still kind of weird to see that those cards are still around, those older ones, that they have not been open. Like, I mean, at this point, I'd feel like they'd all be open, but still there's plenty of old, like, it just, like, I don't know why, but that, as a kid, I was like, there's no way I'm holding on to this pack and never opening it, you know, sort of thing. But you have all these boxes and packs kind of coming out of the woodworks, and we're still opening them and still trying to chew the gum that's coming through them, or for some people over there. That to me is like, I'm like, how are we still?
Well, I think the overproduction of the 80s and 90s, we're going to be opening those things till we're in our 90s.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, they overproduced the late 80s, early 90s like you wouldn't believe. You know, double production, triple production. And so what I grew up with, you know, the 89 Donruss Ken Griffey Jr. rookie, I thought it was the best card ever. And then I found out that, okay, I'm opening these boxes and I'm getting tons of them. And so, but it was still fun.
Yeah. Now, when you collect, how do you are you in it for the value? I mean, what's like for your personal collection? Because last I talked to you, or maybe this was a while ago, I remember you were focused on Rashan Gary.
Still am.
Still focused on Rashan Gary. So is that still, do you add more? Or do you just focus on one? Like, kind of going back to when I asked you, I'm like, I've got like 10 guys that I can't narrow it down.
Dan, that was a great question. I went kind of a little crazy his rookie year, and I think I ended up with like probably over 150 different Rashan Gary autographed rookie cards.
Really?
So that tells you right there how many cards are produced of a player, and he's a offensive or a defensive lineman, And so what I've done probably over the last years, I'm trying to narrow it down to collecting rainbows, and so the rainbow would be every card of that player of a certain brand. So for example, the hardest one I think for me is the Select. So 2019 Select, I'm trying to get all of his autographed rookie cards. I'm 3 away. So I'm 3 away from completing the rainbow, so I'm getting there. But
so how often do you check eBay then for that stuff?
There's a way that you can set up a notification to have them let you know when a new autographed Rashan Gary card's posted.
Gotcha.
So I'll get an email every morning letting you know. But then have to check. Nope, that's not Select. So, but it's fun, But now I'm down to the point where I need the other 1-of-1. There's 2 different 1-of-1s. One's a die cut, one's a regular. So I need one of the 1-of-1s, and then there's 2 5-of-5s. And then I've got the rest. I've got the 10 of 10s, the 25s, the 49s, the 75s, the 100s, the 125, the 199, and the base. It's insane.
Yeah. What was the players that when you were a kid you were collecting the most?
Oh geez. Probably wasn't necessarily the player, but the team. Brewers, Packers, Bucks. That's what I loved. I can even remember I had a cousin down in Texas, and we went down to visit him, and he was a big Astros fan. So I remember bringing my extra Astros cards and trading him for Brewers cards. So, that was just fun. Yount, Molitor, Ogilvy, Thomas, Cooper, all the old school Brewers. Packers, unfortunately, back in the day, they weren't that good, but I still love Lindecki, Jefferson, Lofton, Ivory, players like that.
So tell me a little bit about, because I've asked you this a couple times through messaging on Facebook, your one Packers collection. Is it the 60s collection, was it, that you worked on?
Before I got married, there was a person in Altoona that had a Packer collection, and he wanted to get rid of it, and I really didn't know what he had, but we met at the McDonald's on Hastings, and he opened up the box, and it was Packer team sets dating back to 1954 all the way up through 70. And at the time, money was kind of tough to come by, like as it is now. But I'm like, man, I can't pass this opportunity up. So I bought the Packer team sets from 1954 all the way through 1970. The only kicker was it was missing the 57 Horning and 57 Star, which are probably 2 of the most valuable cards. But these cards were in great shape. Like, probably won't get them graded. I maybe should, but I would say most of them are probably PSA 5, 6, 7s.
Wow.
So
nice.
Yeah, they're probably decent shape.
That is awesome. That's because that was the other thing too. I've been asking questions like, do I do something like that? Because I feel like I wanna focus on one area and like focus, do that sort of thing. Like I feel like I've got such a wide range of too many interests, and it's just kind of picking all over the place.
Well, right now I think a lot of people are chasing. They're chasing these rookies. Some of these rookie cards are going more than vintage. I think vintage is always going to hold value. I think your Bart Starr, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. Your Paul Horning, Hall of Fame running back. I think investing in players that are Hall of Famers are never going to depreciate, but chasing these new rookies, they're a game away from being done.
Right. And the other part to me too is like I was focusing a lot on Aaron Rodgers cards. Now it's like he kind of annoys me, so I don't want to collect the guy anymore. And that's where it's like I keep going back to a guy like when you said Bart Starr, it's like, well, I was fortunate I got to meet him and talk, and it's everything, it's like, okay, that guy's cool. That's a cool dude. Like that one I would have no problem. But again, the options are kind of limited too with how many cards there are of him.
Yes.
And I know they got newer ones in that too, but.
And after he unfortunately passed away, his cards skyrocketed. So now what you're going to pay, you'll probably, if you ever wanted to sell them down the road. But then that's the thing too. It's like, are you collecting for yourself?
Yeah.
Are you collecting for an investment down the road? Because if you're collecting for yourself, then the price doesn't matter as much because you just want that card.
That's the thing is like, I would never sell unless I really had to. Like I probably have a worthless collection anyways, but it probably means more to me than the next guy.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah. Like I would never, I can never imagine myself, letting go of that stuff. And if anything ever happened, it's like, oh, it's Hudson's responsibility after that point. He can do whatever he wants.
Yep.
And that's kind of like, you know, when we're sitting in here and I'm looking at this, like, I don't think I could run a store because I'd want all this stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm looking at all these amazing framed autograph pictures, and I'm like, holy cow.
I know.
I would never part with this.
No, and that's like, you know, even some of the other stuff in the cases and the cards, like, I think it would be the coolest thing to come to work and see all this.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know if I'd make any money. Because that's the problem I have, though, too. You know, so, I mean, kudos to people who can.
That's like me and trying to keep an unopened box of cards in my house.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen.
Is there a box that you would love to, like, maybe buy and open, like, a certain year or brand or something like that?
That's a great question. Probably the 86 Fleer basketball.
Yeah.
Jordan's rookie. I think that'd be phenomenal just to have a chance to try to get one. Since I'm a big Jordan Love fan, 2020, you know, Mosaic, I think that'd be fun. Gosh, I could go on and on. You know, there's probably tons of different boxes I'd love to open. Even old 87 tops. Yeah. I love the look of the 87 tops, and that was a fun year, and that's a cheap rep.
Do you think, first of all, have you ever watched the, what is it on Netflix, like King of Collectibles or something like that? Did you see that a little bit? I was watching, like, was it the LeBron card, the 3 Logo Man patch card or something like 101?
Yeah.
And just how crazy that stuff gets. And, you know, with the break, do you watch breaks or anything like that on YouTube? Or?
You know, I do because I can't afford to be in a lot of them, but they're fun to watch. Yeah, so like MPB breaks, Matt Barnett, I watch quite a bit of his. Jack LeMay, Spartan Sports Cards Memorabilia. Those guys are just phenomenal. They provide really good value breaks too. They don't overcharge a ton. You know, they have to make something on their sleeves, their holders, their delivery fees. They're not making a lot after that, and so that's the type of breakers I like to watch, or the people, and they're fun. You know, they're local, and it is fun. You know, I've tried to watch some of the bigger ones, but sometimes to me it feels like they overhype everything and they get way too crazy about it. And so, but yeah, it is fun to watch.
When it comes to maybe, like, since we're in training camp and all that, obviously quarterbacks cards, I think, are probably, you know, the key ones that a lot of people focus on. Who would you think, though, for Green Bay right now with all these younger guys on there, do you think is like the next more popular one? Not necessarily maybe the biggest one. You know, you mentioned Jayden Reed a little bit earlier, and Hudson was all about Jayden Reed last year.
Yeah.
And obviously Jordan Love's probably still number one on this. Part of me is wondering if Christian Watson stays healthy, could he be a part of that equation too? I mean, who do you think could be that next very popular Packer guy on there?
You know, that's such a hard question because you look at that receiving core and it's like Romeo Doubs. He's phenomenal. Christian Watson, if he stays healthy, he has proven that he could be an elite receiver. Jayden Reed, what he did last year as a rookie was phenomenal. Dontavian Wicks, he's great. Bo Melton came out of nowhere. Bo had a great season. You know, it's like those 5, and then you've got your new running back, Marshawn Lloyd, who in camp, the rumors are he's looking really good. And with Josh Jacobs now a Packer, I think Josh Jacob Packer cards would be fun to collect. And so as far as who might stand out this year, my quick answer is hopefully everyone.
Yeah. So the thing, and that's what I was curious with your answer. You didn't mention any defensive players.
Well,
is that kind of where
typically the money, unfortunately, if you're looking for money, is in those offensive players. But defense-wise, my gosh, Rashan Gary, Preston Smith, even though he's older, he's been a great leader. The new contract with Kenny Clark, I know I started to, after he signed, I'm like, maybe I should start looking at his rookie cards. Yeah. But other people were doing the same thing as I was. Jaire Alexander has always been a popular one. I think adding Xavier McKinney is going to be great. Now, this is one, and I probably shouldn't share this because I haven't looked for this guy yet, but with the new changes in the kickoff rules, Keyshawn Nixon. I think he is going to have a few touchdowns this year. With the changes in the way they do the kickoffs, it's going to open up lanes for him that he's going to take advantage of. So there'd be a sleeper on defense special teams.
I thought you were going to say Anders Carlson there for a minute. I'm like, wait a minute.
Well, let's not go that far. I'm still a little bitter about San Francisco.
Yeah, so. I was like, oh, that might be a bold prediction coming from you right now. A kicker card there. So
no, not yet. I hope for the sake I'm wrong, but yeah.
Right. You know, baseball wise, you know, with the Brewers and just even overall baseball, do you think the Paul Skeens market, you know, is just going to keep continuing to get bigger and bigger right now?
I tell you what, from what I've seen, he's phenomenal. He he's lights out. His movement on his pitches and his command for where he's at is just great. And so if he continues on a path, I see his cards just continuing to go up. I don't say that about a lot of baseball players, but seeing him, watching him on games or hearing about how he's doing, he's definitely a unique pitcher.
Who do you think was the last pitcher like that? Like, I was trying to think about that a couple weeks ago. Like, that dude, like, I kept, and maybe it's just because I'm nostalgic, but I kept going to, like, was it Randy Johnson? Was it even a Roger Clemens or Greg Maddux was there? But he was great, but he wasn't like the power thrower like Skeens and Randy Johnson. Those guys are. We've had good pitchers that made a lot of money, and Garrett Cole, but I wouldn't say they were like superstar levels.
Yeah,
where Skeens
there was a lot of hype around Strasburg, but he never
he got hurt and all that. So
Kerry Wood, going back a little bit farther, he had that 20 strikeout game, and everybody was all over him. But there hasn't been as much hype around a pitcher in a while from Skeens.
And I just kept I love the 90s, so that's why I kept going back to the 90s over there. So hoops wise, because I like to cover all the bases here right now, I mean, that to me, it seems like the NBA is more of an individualized sport, especially I'm a Bucks fan in that too, but I feel like a lot of kids are focusing on the individual players.
Yep.
Like, again, I'll use Hudson as an example. He's got a Dame and a Giannis jersey, but an Anthony Edwards jersey or player tee or whatever they're calling it these days. And he loves individual players. Is a Bucks fan, but really focuses on individual players, whereas football, if they're not a Packer player, it doesn't matter. That sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Baseball's kind of in the middle. He's got he loves Aaron Judge, but he's all Brewers too.
Yep.
But like basketball right now, I mean, is the Victor Wembanyama thing still kind of the main craze?
Yeah,
right now?
the hype is real with that guy. There's a high demand for his rookie cards, and astronomical prices are already happening, because of it. And it's quite insane. He had a great rookie year, and all signs point towards him being a great player, but you just never know.
So I read this too, and I wanted to get your thoughts. And I was seeing people say like Shaq cards are not worth a whole lot. Is that because it's the overproduction sort of thing, or because I read the comments on Facebook, and and I don't understand a whole lot of behind the scenes, but I see a lot of people saying, well, Shaq cards aren't really worth anything anymore, and I guess I really don't know why. Would you have a theory potentially on that?
That isn't all true. It depends on the Shaq card you're looking for. Because by the time Shaq came into the league, there was multiple companies, multiple cards of him. So he does have some more rare cards that are worth quite a bit. But your average common isn't going to go for as much as a Michael Jordan common. He does have a following, not obviously as big as Jordan or Kobe, but I wouldn't say they're not worth anything. I think it depends on the
obviously
card.
Rookies probably
rookies
up there
and
that.
like special insert cards or rare cards like that.
All right, well, you gave me a little bit more confidence there because I was like, wait
and
a minute.
Know what? If you love Shaq, that's what you should collect then. Don't let other people rain on your parade.
Was there a random player that was like not even worth anything, but you collected him just because you love the guy?
Yeah, actually there is, and it's a funny story. When the Twins built the Metrodome, we went to a Twins, I think it was Royals game, and I remember the Twins dugout is like below ground, and like I wanted to get autographs, and I was like an 8-9-year-old kid, and you couldn't like put stuff through the fence because they were down below. And I remember there was a player who had a very unique name, and I just loved his name, and his name was Bombo Rivera from the Minnesota Twins. And I can remember my brother and I, Bombo, just shouting that. Well, he threw us 2 baseballs over the fence and signed them.
Oh, nice.
And, after that, I was like, I'm hooked. And so I started collecting, Bombo Rivera cards back in the 80s. And, it was just something like that. A player that made a connection with me is what I gravitated towards. And I think that's so important in today's day and age. I know a lot of these superstars won't give you the time of day, but there are some players that will take time to sign. And I think those are the players that hopefully kids gravitate towards. They see that these players really value the fans.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, when you were mentioning that, I was thinking of the first kind of Packer player I gravitated. It was Brian Williams, a linebacker, because that was my first autograph ever.
Yeah.
So I was like, I want to get Brian Williams stuff, and obviously, it's rare now.
Yeah.
But it's stuff like that. Even to this day, like Hudson for an Express game or something like that, he'll gravitate. Who knows if those kids will go on to be made the next Dalton Varsho or anything like that. But that's one thing too, I think, is kind of getting a little bit lost in this day and age, is that those athletes and those kids' relationships, to see them interact with that. And I think that's where that growth comes from too, for these youngsters to be involved in sports or really like sports too. So, but all right, so you got that. What else? If anybody's listening and they want to donate cards in that year period, what's the best way that they should go about reaching out to you?
The best way would probably be on our Facebook page. It's called Card Collecting Club. It's got our logo on there. It's like the blue hexagon with the little cards in the middle. Just personally message me. Also, if there's any businesses that are willing to donate either funds or things for the event, I'd be more than happy to take that. This is a monumental thing, the second one. Like I said, last year we had 75. This year I'm predicting well over 150 kids.
Wow.
So it's going to be pretty huge.
Yeah, no kidding. So last thing, has there that Holy Grail card for you that you have not gotten but you'd like to?
The Rashan Gary 101.
The 101?
Yep, that'll help complete. Well, not complete, but I think the 101s are the hardest to get. So if you want to start like a collection of a recent player and you want to do a rainbow, you've got to get that 101 because that's the hardest card to get. And the funny thing is there's probably select boxes that haven't been open yet. So that card could still be sitting on a shelf in a warehouse in New York for all I know. So that's the hard thing too.
So that's because you still need a Bart Starr rookie too, right?
Oh yeah, that too. Yep. I guess maybe that would be a good one. Yeah,
you
the
got two of them, right?
Bart Starr 57. But see, I'm not geared towards that as much because that price, even for like a PSA 2 or 3, is a few $100s.
Yeah.
So it's come to the point where it's just a price issue. So
yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. It's like it gets a little intimidating sometimes when you see that, right? I mean, it's like, God, I'd really like that, but then it's like you almost feel like you're never going to get it unless something happens.
Yeah,
but
and you never know.
You never know, right?
I've got 2 kidneys. I guess I could sell one.
Jeez.
No, I wouldn't go that far.
No, not at all. So, Brian, thanks for hopping on here for a while here. Appreciate that. And I mean, we could keep going on and probably
we could
keep
talk
doing
for hours.
more. But I kind of want to check out some of the stuff. I think I want to focus on like that hunt thing. That like I saw that guy's video. I was actually thinking about that on the way over here, and he's got like 5 errors. One's the Barry Sanders rookie.
Okay.
One's Jordan's rookie.
Yep.
And there's like 3 other common ones or something like that out there. So I might have to.
That's
come
kind
up
of fun.
with some I know.
It's kind of fun. Like,
and that gets me to open up packs.
Well, and I know the new Topps Chrome just came out, and that the cards just looked phenomenal. And so I'm like, well, it'd be fun to open a blaster here and try to get a Brewer card.
Yeah.
So that's a hunt that I enjoy is
Right.
getting a favorite team.
Yep. So I think that's what I got to figure out. I want to go with the retro though, the older ones.
Okay.
That's
Perfect.
like maybe it's a 92 for a Shaq rookie or something like that. So
there you go.
I know.
Sounds like fun.
I got to think of a couple more. I got to think of a football one. And I don't know where I'm going to go with that one yet. So
Lots of possibilities.
Oh yeah. Brian, thanks much. Thanks a bunch, man.
You bet, Dan.
And that is going to do it for us on this episode of the Man Cave Podcast. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you got a few seconds, if you could, give us a 5-star rating and a positive review so others can find the podcast. So like on Apple, 5 stars and a positive review. Spotify, 5 stars. You get the idea. Till next time, I'm Dan Casper, and I will talk to you on the next episode of the Man Cave Podcast.